Do you need to run your integration tests or test containers on Azure DevOps pipeline? If yes, this video is for you. For those who don't know me, my name is Alavi and I record 2 videos every week about .NET development. This video is the first video of 3 videos about how to run test containers on Azure DevOps. In the first video, I'm just going to show you how to do that. On the second video, I'm going to give you a presentation about what is happening behind the scene and why we need to do it like that. And in the third video, I'm going to explain how can you run it in enterprise organizations. If you are not familiar with the test containers, I created a video about test containers. Please watch that. And this project structure is almost the same. I put this code in my GitHub account and you can find the link here down in the description. I have a project. In this project, I have a controller. I have a student controller. And as you can see, I can read all students, read just one student, add one student, delete a student, and edit a student. And for testing that, I'm using test containers. I have a test project. In a test project, I have a file with test container, and in the with this container I have one I-class fixture of type Docker web application factory, and there, if I go there, you can see that I am using MS SQL container, and in the configuration I'm just telling it to use the in-memory web server, and here on initialization I'm just telling it to create the database for me and add some rows to the student table, as you can see here. Okay, let's run it on my local machine and see how it works. If I go to the test explorer and try to run it, let me bring up my Docker. I have Ryuk container and MS SQL server already on my machine. Let me go to the containers. As you can see, Ryuk and the MS SQL server are running and done. My test is done in less than a second. It might take a bit longer on your machine because if you don't have these images on your machine, you have to download them first. I push this code to my Azure DevOps and now I want to run a pipeline. Let me just go to the repository that I have. In this repository, I have 3 folders. The first one is the project itself. The second one is the test project. I have a third folder. In the third folder, I have just one Dockerfile. In the Dockerfile, I am loading the base image for .NET SDK. The reason that I need to have .NET SDK, not .NET runtime, is that test and running test is a part of SDK, not runtime. I'm using the source directory and copying everything to the source directory. Everything, all the folder structure and the files that I have here will be copied to the image. And then I will restore the whole solution. And then I will run the test for the database project.test, this folder, and the csproj. I'm going to tell it, find this csproj file and run the test against that. It has 2 tests and it needs to run the test containers. Okay, I have a Dockerfile, but why do I need to have a Dockerfile? In the second video, I'm going to explain it. To run a pipeline, you need to have a YAML file. I created the YAML file here. You can see that I'm using one of the Microsoft public build agents, which is Ubuntu latest. Docker is installed on this machine, but you don't have .NET SDK installed on that machine. Then you need to have a Docker container or a Docker image which has .NET SDK installed on it, and put your code inside that container and then run the code. And let's see, what else do I have? I have 2 variables, image name, it is just a silly name, my Docker image. And I have a Docker file path because I have a Docker file and the Docker CLI needs to load this file. and this is the path of my file. As you can see inside my folder structure in Docker folder, I have the Dockerfile. Be careful because Docker is case sensitive about naming. I have a job name. I need to check out the code, which means that every time that we need to run it, Azure pipeline is going to get the latest version of the code for me and run it against the latest version. I'm using the Docker2 task. Docker2 task accepts a name. It is build Docker image and accept a command. This command is build because I'm going to build one image. What is the image name? Repository is for image name. In my case, my Docker image is the image name, and the Dockerfile is the path of the Dockerfile. The tag is latest, and build context is dot, which means the current path, which is -source. Now we have everything, and for running the test containers, we just need to run the container that we created, and we use the Docker. We use Docker task again, and the name is run Docker container. The command is run, and you need to say --rm, which means after running it, it is going to remove the container. The network should be equal host. You may or may not need it, but it is better to be safe than sorry. And then the most important part, you need to mount the sock file from the Docker host and Docker image. In the next video, I'm going to explain about that one. And then you need to pass just the image name, and because the tag is the latest, it is always going to look for the latest one. Let me go to the pipelines. I have test containers, and I can run this pipeline. By running it, it is going to go to another page. Let me click on it and see. It is initializing the job. The first job is to just checking out the code. And the second one is to build the image. First, it tries to load the base image, which is .NET 8 SDK. And now, as you can see, it's downloaded the .NET 8. It has a lot of layers, and eventually it is generating one command for me. Here it is just running a Docker command. The build command for the file, -f is for the file, which is pointed to my Docker file. It is on home vsts work 1 s and -docker in docker -dockerfile. It changed your file, your path behind the scene. Oh, let me go back there again. And then it has a lot of labels. You don't need to know all these labels. And the last thing that you need to know is the name of the image that it is going to create. -t, my Docker image with tag latest, exactly what we specified. And for the context, we pass dot, which means that's the current position of the folder structure. And here it is home-vsts-work-1-s. If I go back here and check it, you can see that it is exactly the same path that we have for the solution. And then here, if I go a bit down, you can see that run.net restore. In run.net restore, it tries to restore everything. And then in the next task, it tries to run the docker run command with --rm network with mounting these two files and tries to just run this image. We have some informations here. They are not really important, but what I want to present here is this data initialization. Can you remember here when I told you that for initializing async, we are going to create some student and add 3 rows? Here you can see in the log that we are adding some students. And then you can see that the test containers stopped and the test is passed. I have 0 failed, 2 passed test, 0 skipped, and in total I have 2 tests. Yeah, it is that easy. If you want to run it in your organization, you might face some issues. In the third video, I'm going to explain how to do that. If you have a Nexus server as your Docker repository, how to use it, and how to log in to some private repositories. And you can find this code on my GitHub account that you can find the address down below in the description. If you like this video, just press the like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any kind of question, just write it down below. In the next video, I'm going to present how it is happening behind the scene and how you can save some money in your organization with just getting rid of the test environment and running everything on test containers. Till then, enjoy your life as a developer.